Hi, welcome back to yet another edition of the Golden Aces Nation podcast. Along with Scott Allen, I'm Kyle Peach. Glad to have you along once again here this week. You're still watching, so we're still making this fine podcast every week for you. And starting to wind down the fall sports season, Scott, the Aces wrapped up the regular season for football last Thursday night, a rare, maybe once ever football game on a Thursday night, and closed it out with a win that they had to have against the Lawrenceville Indians.
Yeah, really, the playoffs have been going for a couple of weeks for all practices intent for Mount Carmel, and so they've finished the unofficial playoff portion officially, getting in the playoffs in perfect fashion. They beat Lawrenceville, a little pesky Lawrenceville bunch, hung with the Aces in the first half. Then Mount Carmel turned it on in the second half. Had a very good effort all around, a very solid day too for Elliot Acree. Three touchdowns, one a pick six. So a lot of fun highlights in that game. And now we finished strong and we got in. How about that? We didn't have much margin for error, but we got in. And that to me, obviously winning conference is always a goal, but when you look at the historical aspects of Mount Carmel football, the playoffs is what everybody talks about and are what everybody talks about. And how about that? The Aces are in, just like we were hoping this team would be.
Yeah, no doubt. This team didn't start the season very well, 0-2. In fact, only nine previous times, only twice had teams finish the regular season above 500, and the Aces now have made it a third and the 10th time that Mount Carmel football has gone 0-2 to start the season. So a good turnaround and things trending the right direction. Shane Metter's throwing the ball a little bit more. We're getting more people involved in the offense. Metter, by the way, 12 of his last 15 pass completions over the last 2 weeks have been good ones. So, we're starting to spread things out a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that's good news, especially at this time, because that gives other teams something else to worry about now. Because we present a passing attack in terms of what we bring to the table, and I know if and who knows what video Sullivan gets. I normally would have assumed they get week 9, but Michael Burr's not so sure that that's what they've got. Who knows how many they have in essence, but. We're a lot different ball club now in week 10 than we were in week one, two, three, and probably four and five for that matter, because we started to open things up. And that just, like I said, the main thing is presents challenges for other teams, but it also opens things up for the Aces running game too, because now you have to honor something other than the run. And we just can't have 9 guys in the box against us trying to run on that. So some people have to stay home and watch their positions. We might go over the top. So suddenly it's a whole new look to this Aces team and just in time for the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You look at the Mount Carmel rushing attack. Elliot Acree goes over 1,000 yards last week, 1,045 yards on 180 carries. But you've also got several other guys that can carry the football, as you were talking about. Shane Metters carried for 673 yards. Jackson Kling, 344. We've now thrown for 319 yards, so we're getting the yardage to accumulate. We're still shy of 3,000 all told for the season in total offense, but we're getting there, and the Aces going to be riding that win over Lawrenceville into the postseason, two in a row now. Marshall and Lawrenceville heading to Sullivan, where we'll be the underdogs. We'll talk more about that playoff matchup in just a moment. But anything else stand out to you from the end of the regular season?
Well, I think in week 9, one of the big highlights was the return of Sam Strockbine.
Yeah.
And who knows how long this season's going to go now in the postseason run. Last year we got all 5 extra weeks in to get to week 14. But as we go further along in the playoffs, that storyline is probably going to loom a little bit larger and larger because it really enables us to put Jackson Kling back as another offensive threat in the backfield, to use him a little bit more, and started to see it a little bit last week when it was obvious Strockmine was back in the lineup. But it also adds a little more bulk up front too, and experience up front, because he certainly has a lot of experience up front of that line spot now. Kind of anchors that young line out, and so it offers us a lot of flexibility too, because now there's more things you can do with Acree and a Kling in the backfield, and now you've got more of a passing attack as it is, and lo and behold, boom, suddenly we have more weapons again, and we added even more because we get a lineman back, and that enables Kling now to step back into the backfield.
Yeah, too bad you can't hand the ball to a lineman. I guess Jackson Kling. We could have tried that out there to start the game off last week against Lawrenceville. But another onside kick recovery in that game for the Aces. So figuring some things out, special teams as well. We want to spend a lot of time talking about the playoffs. So let's hear from Michael Brewer about the Aces' win to close out the regular season against the Lawrenceville Indians.
Out of teams that began the season 0-2, this is only Kyle, the third one to come back and get in a playoff position at 5-4. So quite a comeback by this club, really.
Yeah, we hung tight and kind of battled in some games. We battled against Paris to get a win and won some of them ugly. So they've kind of hung in and bought into trying to get better each and every week. And make progress that way. We knew that those first two games would be tough, and we knew you had a couple in the middle there that were going to be challenging as well. Just kind of weathered some storms and done a good job of hanging in and just continuing to play and compete and working hard. So happy to be where we're at, with the way we started and Alney, Casey Westfield, really good teams this year. It was tough at times, but like you said, they fought, they battled, they've hung in and done a good job that way.
Well, I'll tell you what, in the end, we go back to ground and pound and work the clock and then kind of pulled away in this one.
Yeah, so we're trying to work on some different things and have some answers for different stuff. And then early on, I think we got out the gate pretty quick and did a good job with that first drive, and then just defensively, we had to be more, we weren't physical enough in the first half. We were catching things and, trying to, be blocked and find the football, and you got to defeat blocks and you got to go. So again, this game ended up kind of being a microcosm, I guess, of our whole season, where it was rough at first and you just kind of had to weather it and play through it and get some things fixed in the second half, which we did. So the boys did a good job of getting some stuff corrected. We just got to be overall, I'd say we got to be more consistent. We're inconsistent, defensively.
And flags hurt us tonight too.
Flags hurt us tonight, yeah. But we got to be more consistent in on all phases of the game.
So now that we know we're 5-4, now we await the results of every other football game that in every one in the state might have a bearing on us in one fashion or another. So now that you can really think about it, what are the chances we get in? They're better than 50%.
I think we're in.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we get in. I would imagine that there will be a 4-5 team in the playoffs. Again, that may not be in 3A, but 1A through 8A, I think a 4-win team will get in somewhere. Mm-hmm. So if a 4-win team gets in there, that means all the 5-4s are in. And then if you look at a projected bracket, I still think there's going to be a couple of 5-4 teams that are seated below us. And the way they do that is playoff points. And playoff points are just how many games have your opponents won. Mm-hmm. And so we'll have more of those than some other people. Yeah. I imagine Alney will be 9-0. Gibson Southern got you several. Effingham got you, 4 or 5. So, and then in your conference, those just kind of balance each other out. Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. So we're in decent shape with playoff points. So I think we're pretty safe.
Yeah. All right, but we know we're on the road, and but that's okay. We're in the playoffs. That's the main thing, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, once you knew that the conference wasn't there, that's the next goal is qualify for the playoffs, and then now you kind of get a new start. You get a fresh start. You get a brand new season. You got to go on the road, but everybody's in the same boat now. You win, and if you don't, you're done. So we can go make of this whatever we want to make of it. So we got to work and focus, and we got to prepare well, and see how long we can keep going.
Really, all things considered, another great game by Elliot Acree. Both sides of the ball for him tonight, huh?
Yeah, Elliot's just a kind of a mainstay, a consistent piece for us, a steady guy. You know what you're going to get. You get it every single night. He doesn't really ever come off the field too much. It was nice to have Sam back. Strockbein was able to come back tonight. That made a big difference. It allowed Kling to give Elliott some breaks. And so you just kind of could give him a break here and there, which we need to be able to do more. I think, at times we feel like you're just kind of running him into the ground. So, but no, he played well. And again, like I said, he's just that steady, consistent guy for us that levels everything out.
And how about the pick six by Elliot Acree? Downing with a big tip that kind of gets him that.
Azariah did a great job on his pass rush, got those big hands up and got a piece of that ball, and Elliott was the beneficiary. So it landed right in his hands. He did a good job getting into the end zone.
Yeah.
But that was a great play by AZ getting through there, getting pressure and getting his hands up when he couldn't quite get to the quarterback.
Yeah, and I told Kyle if it was hockey, he'd get a point. He'd be in the all-time records for a point. But it doesn't work that way, but a great play nonetheless.
Yeah.
Coach, congratulations on finishing 5-4 in this win tonight. We look forward to visiting with you before the playoffs next week.
Yeah, thanks. Sounds good.
Well, so Mount Carmel got the win. They finished 5-4 for the regular season, making themselves eligible for the playoffs. In fact, all 5-4 teams in the state get in. So there was really nothing, I guess, to worry about. It's being a 5-4 bubble team. The Aces are in. They're the 15th seed in the South, and they'll travel to Sullivan to take on the Redskins in a rematch of last season's second-round playoff game against those Redskins that the Aces hosted at Riverview Stadium. And Scott, I think a lot of folks in Aces Nation think, like, all things considered, we got a pretty decent draw heading into the playoffs with a 5-4 mark.
Yeah, I like the Aces' chances against Salem better than about anybody else we could have lined up against. And we rattle off all those teams, and they're all in the area: the Williamsvilles, the Greenvilles, the St. Joe Ogdens, all this and that. And to end up with Sullivan, that was probably the best option, I think, going in. Now, will it turn out to be that way? Well, we have to play the game. But last year, of course, Mount Carmel beat the Redskins en route to that second place finish in the state tournament. Now, that was a young Sullivan squad, a relative young Sullivan squad against a veteran Aces squad. It's almost the exact opposite now. It's an extremely young Aces squad, one of the youngest we've ever had in the playoffs, and maybe the youngest team we've ever had as a playoff team, against a Sullivan team now that learned from last year and they're a brief state tournament run, and they have about everybody back, at least the skill backs back, and of course that just makes the challenge that much harder.
You want to know the craziest stat heading into this game?
Sure.
Both teams have rushed for 2,580 yards on the season. Both teams, 2,580 exactly on the nose. Sullivan did it in 281 carries. It took the Aces 415 carries to get to that mark, but both averaging 286.7 yards per game. Sullivan doing about 9.2 yards per carry, the Aces at 6.2. I don't think I've ever put stats together for a game this late in the season and the rushing yard total be exactly the same, but that's what we're dealing with. The problem for the Aces is that Sullivan's passed for 1,414, while we've thrown for just 332.
Yeah. Well, and they're going to like their chances going into this game because of the fact that they can seem to move the ball downfield with bigger chunks. I mean, it took us well over 100 and then some extra plays to get the same amount of yards total, but that's just the way we are. That's our MO this year. We're not going to steamroll down the field. We're going to plod down the field. That's why we have to play errorless football. We can't even have a 5-yard sometimes, and we've seen it, 5-yard infractions have nullified drives. So we have to be pretty flawless, and that's a lot to ask of a young team, and we have to keep it on the ground. And so, thus, there's not going to be as many possessions in the game. So playing for the lead and getting the lead early on is always a key for Mount Carmel, especially in the playoff. If you look to the stat that if indeed Mount Carmel plays a well-rounded ball game, that's still going to be kind of a one-sided running ball game, and it's going to take a lot of plays. It's going to take a lot of time off the clock, and neither team's going to get that many possessions in the game. So it really behooves both teams to be very efficient when they do get the ball.
Yeah, and of course, you talk about a team that's kind of two-dimensional more so than the Aces have been. The Aces building in that department, but Sullivan, Cooper Christensen is a name we'll remember from last year, the quarterback who has thrown 76 of 120 passes, completed 1,411 yards, 15 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. He's rushed for another 398 yards on 76 carries. For Sullivan standards, that's a measly 5.2 yards per carry average, which is one of the lowest on the team in terms of rushing. Their leading rusher is Ian Fryman, number 41, 1,392 yards on 115 carries, averaging 12.1 yards per rush as the leading carrier. So he's going to be a big deal to handle for the Aces. Another player as far as rushing to watch, D'Aiden Arnold, 47 carries, 425 yards. And yet one more, Addison Holman, 23 carries for 200 yards on the season. So those are kind of their principal backs. And as far as receivers are concerned, they've seen several players catch passes this year, notably Seth Forlines, a name we remember again from a year ago, 23 catches, 555 yards. We also, in double digit receptions, Braden Montgomery, 18 for 216 yards. And then you have DeMarcus Moore, 8 for 182 as well. So 15 passing touchdowns for this team, 34 rushing touchdowns. They are a very offensive minded team. I guess, Scott, one thing we could point out about this crew is they don't typically play 3A football teams. They are playing a lot of teams that are much smaller. In fact, as I was writing their schedule out, there's a lot of co-op teams that they're against. Cerro Gordo, Bemin, Sangamon Valley, Tri-City, Arthur Lovington, Atwood, Hammond. You know, they're playing a lot of those teams in the conference play. So that's one of the things that I think we can look at. They're the largest school in the Lincoln Prairie, but the only 3A school in that closed league. So they're the largest school in the conference.
Hey, tell me one stat. Tell me how many picks they've had against them.
Against them, just four. Cooper Christensen, 4 picks. They have recorded defensively 7, and they have recovered 3 fumbles defensively.
Okay. Well, that was an interesting stat. So they're human in terms of that, and we've gotten a little better on the defensive
Yeah.
side of the football over the course of this year. The last half, really, we've gotten all our picks in the last half of the year, and so at least going in, we're on the upswing on defense against the team, and we're going to have to be, especially up front too, because this team has exactly equaled us in terms of the ability to push the ball on the ground with the same exact total in far fewer plays, and they do like to throw the ball too. So at least we're on the upswing defensively. We've got Strockbine bad on both sides of the ball now, so that's got to count for something. So I mean, going in, we're about as good a shape as we're going to be. We're not perfect health wise, and they're probably not either. But it's week 10, and the nice thing is we've got and we'll see if it affects us, if it helps us. We've got the better playoff legacy than Sullivan does, and of course we're that way with about anybody we're going to play in the southern part of the state. So let's hope that little mystique comes to our favor on their field in the first round.
Yeah, the Redskins' last playoff appearance before last year was 2016, so not a team that has that rich of a playoff history as you were alluding to there. Mount Carmel has a 78% winning percentage over the 51 years now that the playoffs have been in existence from 1974 through this season. So, we are certainly getting that done and have only missed the playoffs in 8 years since the playoffs began in that stretch. So a very playoff-oriented team, and now is the time for Mount Carmel to step up. And as you and I were talking before we went on here tonight, Scott, CalPreps doesn't have this as a blowout by any stretch.
No, in fact, Sullivan's favored by 11 points, from what we understand. And if I'm right, Kyle, isn't this the 50th year of the playoffs because they didn't play 1 year?
Well, that's right. Yeah, 51
51-year
years
span of the playoffs.
The COVID year, knocked that out. So
that darn COVID
that's
year.
why it doesn't add up. Things will never add up ever again in our lifetime because of the COVID year of anything.
But you know what? Isn't that amazing? 42 years out of 50, Mount Carmel's been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that counts all the years when we were just a 16-team state tournament, et cetera. But to me, the most astounding fact, I think, and probably it's far better than anybody else in Southern Illinois. Now, if you go to the Metro East, that's a different ballgame with East St. Louis. But the Aces are an amazing 30-11 in first-round games.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
More times than not, we're going to win this first round game. And that includes all the years when you got penalized for being the better team in terms of playoff history. Remember when they used to send teams with the fewest first round home games would be the host, not the other way around. And finally, then they rewarded teams that actually had played more. And now the seeds have come in since then to eliminate all that favoritism. But so 30-11 in the first round, to me, that's an amazing stat.
Going on beyond that just a little bit, Mount Carmel's last loss in a first-round playoff game was at Columbia in 2012. And how about this? Michael Brewer, as the head coach, is 4-0, undefeated in first-round games. We'll see if that streak can continue.
Man, that's impressive as well, too. So, The Aces, I know they're 11-point underdogs according to CalPreps, but that's why it's a talking point. CalPreps can be wrong too, and we got to go play the game, and it's a different world now. It's week 10, and they're looking up at us historically. So let's make the most of that advantage that we do have.
By the way, CalPreps is projecting a couple of seed upsets in the Southern bracket in this first round. One of those, a 9-8 upset of two teams we're familiar with. Tolono Unity is the ninth seed. They're at the eighth seed, Shells of Roxana. Tolono Unity projected a 42-14 win as a 9 seed over the 8 by CalPreps. Meanwhile, the other projected seed upset is the Benton Rangers. They're the 10 seed. They're at the 7 seed New Berlin, and Benton's projected to win 27-19. So, ironically, if Benton would win, it's Benton or New Berlin in the second round for whoever wins between the Aces and the Redskins. If Benton would win and Mount Carmel would win, we would go to Benton in the second round because both of the teams wouldn't have hosted, and Benton's the higher seed. So that's could await the Aces in the second round, but obviously a big task at hand. Also pointing out that amongst the Southern Illinois projections, only that Benton New Berlin game is projected to be closer as a result than the Mount Carmel Sullivan game in the first round. So two tight ones right here, one for the Aces and one for the Benton Rangers in matchups that could lead to a future meeting.
And I'm sure that our coaches have talked to the kids a lot. We've got a very young team. Many of these kids are going to the playoffs as starters for the first time, and they'll need to be cognizant of one simple thing. We can't look ahead. We're not that good of a ball club to be able to look ahead. In fact, there is rarely a ball club that is good enough to look ahead of any game because anybody can beat anybody on a given night. But we're a young team. We're gaining experience, so I don't think we've got any problems. I don't think we're look ahead because really we're 5-4. We've lost 4 games already, and so we just can't take our eye off the ball 1 second for any round in the state tournament series. So I think the kids will be focused, ready for that because they know that is something they've got to be focused on. So we'll worry about Benton and New Berlin after that. But yep, that's an interesting. I like the foursome. I mean, I think we got a very good foursome draw too. I mean, it's the best we could hope for.
No doubt. Best draw I think you could hope for is where we were. So we'll find out how it goes. It'll be Saturday afternoon, 2:00 kickoff. Gates to the stadium there at Sullivan will open at noon. Our live coverage will continue on WSJD Radio with a 1-hour pregame show and also on the live stream video side on the YouTube channel. It is on YouTube, not the NFHS network, the YouTube channel of News Channel 15.
So
this week.
Kyle, I understand it will be at 2:00. It's not going to be changed to 2:30. We're not going to switch to another field north of town. We're not going to play on Sunday. It's going to be guaranteed Saturday, 2 p.m. That's a rarity this year for the Aces.
Yeah, that's a rarity to be on either a Friday or a Saturday
and to be as scheduled
know the time.
To play a game.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you and I might be sitting outside. I haven't got the chance to talk to you about that yet. So they will have a table on a platform for us. And I did request chairs to go through the Tolono story.
Yeah,
so nice anyway, we could have some fun accommodations, but we'll deal with it on Saturday there in Sullivan. And of course, as you know, Sullivan is where the great Larry Davis departed Mount Carmel and ended up after he led the team to the championship in 81, coached again for the Aces in 82, and then went to Sullivan and spent some time there. So you're going to see the field that LD coached on after Mount Carmel if you make the trip north on Saturday.
So a little Mount Carmel connection. And those of you that enjoy the arts, Sullivan is a very well-known town too for their little theater on the little theater on the square. I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
But, they brought some major Broadway performers into Sullivan for many, 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 many years now. So how about that? Sullivan that's probably what they're known for the most is their theater productions that they have in Sullivan. So there you go.
Did your sister Molly tip you off to that?
Actually, yeah, and then I knew about it as well, and I've gone past and seen that before. It's between, of course, Mattoon and Decatur, and back in Charleston, I used to make that trip to cover the Charleston Trojans playing at Decatur Lakeview High School, a school that's no longer around, by the way, and so we used to stop through Sullivan all the time. So yeah, neat little town.
Cool. Well, we'll get the chance to experience that on Saturday. Please come up and support the Aces for the first round of the playoffs. Meanwhile, want to go ahead and kind of introduce you to the kind of the wrap up, really, of the rest of the fall sports season, which is kind of winding down. Hard to believe that basketball is starting this weekend out at Wabash Valley College, and basketball at the high school level will be here soon. So the Mount Carmel volleyball Lady Aces actually won their volleyball semifinal matchup 2-0 over Hamilton County, but then on Thursday night lost to Carmel in the championship in straight sets, 25-17, 25-16. The Lady Aces season ends in the regional championship game. They finished the year at 2016 and in second place in the Little Illini Conference, and I'm full of useless information, so here's one I looked up for you. Mount Carmel ended up with 16 losses, right? 20-16. Of those 16 losses, 10 of them were to teams that won regional championships on Thursday night.
Oh, wow.
Three times to Newton, once to Edwards County, 3 times to Norris City, once to Oblong, and twice to Carmi. 5 of those other losses were to teams that finished in the regional title game. Fairfield twice, Wayne City, Mount Zion, and Hinsdale South all once. So the only loss Mount Carmel suffered this year to a team that wasn't in a regional championship game was at Gibson Southern. The Titans, who don't even play a regional first, they were in their sectional Final Four over in Indiana. But nonetheless, a stellar schedule, and you can see how Mount Carmel fared against some pretty tough competition.
Well, I tell you, yeah, and I lost you there for a second, Kyle, but the gist of what you were saying is, yeah, how about that? In terms of strength of schedule, they base that on actual results. And so, hey, we can point to one of the toughest schedules of anybody in Southern Illinois. They're the way it worked out.
If I need to recap in case it's not there at all, 10 losses of the 16 to teams that won regional championships.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and 5 losses of the 16 to teams that finished second in the regional title games. Only 1 loss was to a team that didn't win or finish in the championship game of a regional, and that was Gibson Southern over in Indiana.
So we're knocking at the door a little bit. Carmi hopefully can hear the little feet coming in from behind him there. So
there you go.
We want to replace the Carmi Bulldogs at state here hopefully soon.
Yeah. Newton in the LIC beat Fairfield for a regional title. Edwards County beat Wayne City, and COE also wins a regional from the area as well. So we'll become fans of them now for the rest of the volleyball season. Meanwhile, in soccer, we reported this before, but the season ended for Mount Carmel in the regional semis. They lost to Massac County there. They finished with a 2-13 overall record, finished 3rd out of 4 teams playing soccer in the LIC. Newton, Olney, the Mount Carmel team, and then Robinson, a very young team that's got a bright future ahead. Speaking of youth, cross country, they ran their regional at Robinson. The boys' Isaiah Glenn was the top runner, finishing 59th overall with a time of 19 minutes, 20 seconds. And on the girls' side, Zoe Randall was the top runner, 49th overall in the girls' race with a time of 25:40. So Matt McCarty's got that program turned around. And, of course, the junior high team was the first to go to a state final for Mount Carmel in cross country at the junior high level earlier this year. So congratulations to them. Finally, girls tennis, Mount Carmel ended up tying with Newton for 7th place in the 9-team Charleston sectional. Hazel Ernest won her opening round sectional match 6-4, 6-1, and the doubles team of Elizabeth Hefner and Ava Giese won their opener 6-1, 6-1, but that would be the wins before Mount Carmel would be eliminated from that sectional title game. So that's kind of the wrap on a busy fall sports season.
Let me ask a question. Zoe Randall, freshman, right?
I think so. Yep.
So how about that? Her first headlines as a Lady Aces athlete will not be in basketball. It was in cross country, and it'll go from there for her now in her career at the Hilltop.
No doubt. And Macy Randall, I believe a sister, was actually mentioned in an article as one of the players to watch on the basketball court in Illinois this year. So that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Well, great.
Let's go ahead and transition quickly to another interview from the Hall of Fame weekend. It's football, it's playoffs, and so we got to go to the OGs, the 1974 team, and I know you had fun talking to Randy Rigg at that event.
Yeah, I sure did. Obviously I didn't come to Mount Carmel till 1979, but it's fun listening to those guys talk about it because it was really uncharted waters. And these are the only guys that were able to go through this. I mean, somebody had to kickstart the program in the playoffs in the very first year of the state series and learn about it to kind of pioneer and pave the way for the rest of us. And this group did it. And so it was interesting to hear their memories, their recollections of what it was like to go through the first ever state playoff tournament.
1974 was the year that started it all, the HSA playoffs, and Mount Carmel was a part of it. And I don't know where I want to start. I tell you one thing I do want to ask you. Okay. As a member of the 74 Aces, we didn't automatically just get in like they do nowadays. We had to survive a vote because there was a three-way tie, right? Three-way tie. So tell us what is going through you. I mean, first of all, you guys don't even know anything about this, the playoffs, what's going to happen, and now they're voting. Did you expect them to vote for Mount Carmel?
We had no idea. I mean, you're talking Lawrenceville voting, only. It's just one of those, well, Lawrenceville upset us, so it's you never knew. It was a shock when we got in, so.
So tell us about the experience of playing for the first playoff, and especially the first game, because it came up early on that Wednesday night. They did that for the first few years. Unfortunately, they had to play it for Friday night, week 9, and then turn around and play Wednesday. That was tough enough. But tell us what was just going through all your guys' minds. I mean, nobody had ever been through this before.
Well, it was just a new experience for all of us. I mean, we knew we were good. Nobody else believed in us, but we believed in us. I mean, Coach Davis, Coach Gates, I mean, they drilled it into us that, you can do this. And his great quotes that he has, if you win, or if you score, you may win. If they never score, you will never lose. Defense wins championships. And we worked on our defense hard in practice every day. I mean, it was just one of those swarming, mad, go to the ball, and that's what we built it on. And we just built on from there, and another not too shabby. So
wow, that was one of his big quotes. So what kind of team were you that year? I mean, were you the focus team? Were you a loosey-goosey team, or what about it?
That is a real good question. We was kind of a cake matter mix collage altogether. I mean, we had straight and narrow. We had some wild and crazy. We had some that would walk the tightrope, go either way, but it all worked. I mean, we were good friends, good buddies. I mean, it was just one of those that was meant to be, so.
Yeah, and teams that never played anybody from other regions of the state, so you get your assignment, you get your pairings, and it's not like nowadays where we kind of have an idea of roughly that kind of football they play at that part of the state, et cetera, et cetera. So you played, Sparta first, wasn't it? Or was that Mount Zion first?
Mount Zion first.
Oh, yeah, they love you, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was
Tell us about how that game went. It was from Mount Zion's angle, I guess, controversial, right?
Oh, yeah, it was. But, we went back in that prevent defense and almost lost it because they threw a long one, and it was just, instead of letting us do our thing, we kind of played secure safety, and it was exciting, but we got it done.
And then Sparta was week 2. Of course, that conference. Yeah, telling I wish I had the microphone up for that. They were in the old Southwestern Egyptian, right, which was the forerunner to the River to River, and that was one tough little league. But we've owned them in the last 20 years. I guess we should have known better from 50 years ago that you guys were going to take control.
We weren't expected. They was a high-powered offense, and I don't think they scored on us. I think we beat them 36-0 or 6, something like that. I mean, it was one of those games where, hey, this is how it's going to be. You're going to have to beat us. And again, our defense rose to the occasion, swarmed to the ball, and just decimated them. So.
And really, and so much was defensive carried you because it carried you again in week 3 in the semifinals. Just 16 teams in the tournament back then, so just 4 games to win it. It's Quincy Catholic Boys, which is now Quincy Notre Dame, and and of all things,
That
the,
was the
God
hardest
love
thing.
him, the toe, Doug Peterson. Tell us about that.
Well, it was cold, very cold, but we took 5 bus loads of fans to Quincy. Yeah,
And
5 bus loads.
and there's no good way to get to Quincy.
No. And of course it was sleeting, snowing a little bit, muddy, but those boys knew how to hit. I mean, that was the hardest hitting game that we ever played in. I mean, I was hurting after that game. But again, we down and I don't know, he called the right plays and we got back down where Doug could do his thing, and it was a rare, I think we kicked it 3 other times all season, maybe. But yeah, it was rare, and then people were saying that we did the penalty just to get a better position, but no, we screwed up and got backed up, but it still worked out. So, but yeah, it was a good game.
And so you go to the state finals now at Hancock Stadium at ISU, first ever state tournament, and they didn't do it like they do it now. In the old days, they averaged the conference enrollment, not the school enrollment. So we ended up playing West Chicago, which was more than twice our size, right?
They were twice. Yeah, they had we had 9 players playing both ways. They had an entire offensive team and defensive team. And I don't think they've ever been in 3A since then. Yeah. But, new experience for the people at the state. So it's just, it's one of those things.
And what about playing on a Wednesday in the first round? I know we don't do that anymore, but several teams of our past did, but it was its own animal, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was different. I mean, you had to prepare quicker, but Coach Davis and Gates, they exchanged films and we got her down, and so unfortunately we couldn't. Was a little outmanned. So.
Okay, Randy, how about a story of LD and a story about John Gates? First of all, did you have the tree back then that you guys would always run around at the end, way into the, was that the south end of the end zone, right? There was that old tree there. It isn't around anymore, but did you guys ever, was it there at all?
No, we didn't run to the tree. We ran the stadium steps, ran that cinder track 3/4 of a mile before practice ever started. So we were beating people in the fourth quarter because we were in shape. I mean, we had still plenty of gas where the others were screaming for air. So, but yeah, it's just, it was, conditioning was very different back then than it is now. So, that's the way it is.
Yeah,
Times change.
Yeah, I used to love LD. I mean, I had so much fun with that guy just in my little time here when he was still there. He was only there the first 3 or 4 years I was here. But so, any good LD stories that you can repeat to a family audience?
Well, sure. There's, back then, if you did something wrong, he'd get your attention by breaking that clipboard over your helmet. I mean, you did wrong, and he'd whack you to wake you up. And now, if they'd tried that, they'd be sued. So, can't do that. But back then, it worked, and it was just.
Yeah, and hopefully, he didn't go through too many clipboards in the year. Right?
Well, that's why you got a golden clipboard at the end of the season. We painted one gold and gave it to him. Hopefully, it wouldn't break anymore. So, yeah. So.
Well, So how much has Mount Carmel football changed from a 1974 perspective to now, 50 years later? And does it feel like 50 years?
To some of us, yes. But, I mean, it's like different times. I mean, we run the Power I, now they do wishbones and whatever else, whatever quality of athletes that they have. And it's different, where you had a couple coaches, now you have 6 coaches, and it's just, you got to change with the times, and so it's okay. It's still Golden Aces football.
Well, Randy, you guys are the only team in there this year, and you were it was the perfect Storm, 50 years. It was just, why not? Let's put you in. You're the guys that started it all. You made it a little easier for everybody. You had to go through the motions of what to do day to day in this new found environment, and kind of pioneer us in. I'm amazed they even voted to let us in. I don't think they do that nowadays. They probably vote for anybody with us, but maybe not.
It's, like I said, it's a different day and age. I mean, it's just, something for the younger kids coming up and these teams now is, we started to shoot for it. It's obtainable, if you work for it. And, you have to work for it to get there. So, but like I said, it's attainable. You can do it.
Well, you had quite a different 1974 than I did. I know I was a freshman at Eastern Illinois, learning the hard way that Boone's Farm is not the way to live. So, and it went from there. But and here you are playing football and getting to the first ever state championship game. So congratulations on behalf of all you guys. With you too, Ray.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, there's Randy Rigg, a member of the 1974 Golden Aces.
Scott's interview with Randy Rigg, a member of that 1974 state finalist team, and obviously from Hall of Fame weekend. We had so much fun seeing all the Aces legends back in town for that. Look forward to next year's class enshrinement as well. And here we go from highlights of that to the lowlights of broadcasting. And you and I have, through the years, it's the start almost of basketball season. We're just a couple of weeks away from the first girls game, which, by the way, will be against Carmel at home this year. But it was a fateful trip to Crawford County, Scott, that proved disastrous for the both of us, because my first trip, driving us both up there, I hit a deer. And I always said you had to be an idiot to hit a deer. They're so big. How do you hit a deer? And then I hit one, and I never saw it. So that's how you hit a deer. You never see it till you hit it. And of course, Aces fans as they are, picked you and I up, got us to Robinson. We did the game in time, but that was only half of the weekend story.
Yeah, because we had another incident then, and it was with me at the wheel. And I still remember this. We're rolling down the highway, and I start to hear a noise in my car. And in fact, it was cold, but I had to put the window down to listen to hear what I was hearing. I really didn't know what I was hearing, but something was up. Didn't feel any shimmies or anything. I started to slow down and pull off the Route 1, so there really isn't a shoulder there at that point. We were in Crawford County, I think, at that point. So as I'm slowing down and kind of exiting the road on the right, all of a sudden, the car just shudders and drops. And so now we're skidding, and luckily we weren't going too fast, so we weren't in control at that point, but we were slow enough. We're just kind of skidding to a stop. So there wasn't any fear of the car leaving the road and going down a hill or anything. But then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, my left eye, as I'm at the driver's side, there goes my wheel across the highway. My wheel has come off my car, and I remember going, "There's my wheel." As it bounces off the highway to the left side, and I lost a wheel. So yeah, of all the things that 1 week, how do you lose a wheel of a car?
There you go.
And the problem is, for insurance regulations, I had to have it towed back up to Crawford County. So then I had to go back to Crawford County. I can't remember how I got there the following week. And you know what they labeled it as? Yes, sabotage. That's what the guy said. Sabotage. Like it's the man from Uncle, okay? And it's Ilya Kuryakin, and no. Sabotage. That's all he could come up with. So
you called a player by the wrong number, by the wrong name, and they got your wheel, I guess.
And they took my hubcaps and loosened them up.
There you go.
Yeah. But anyway, so that happened the same weekend, successive trips, back-to-back trips for us. And we had, thank goodness, Aces fans there to bail us out again the second time.
And then, just to cap off the vehicle story. So a lot of fans may have seen my car sitting parked at my office at Wabash Valley College with a window missing here. Hours before departing for Lawrenceville last Thursday, one of our student workers, who's a great kid, does great things. It wasn't his fault. He kicked a rock up with a weed eater and shattered my passenger window. So that made you drive us to Lawrence County last week for that game, and we've got alternate transportation arranged for this week's game. I'm borrowing a truck that will get us there. Hopefully we will arrive safe and sound. But if you see two broadcasters, Aces fans, the moral of the story here is if you see two Aces fans on the side of the road, please stop and help us out. We've needed your help before, and let's hope it's not this trip that we need you again, but we know you'll be there for us if we need you.
It could very well happen. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, make sure you make the trip to Sullivan. Be safe in doing so. 2:00 kickoff, and the gates open at noon up in Sullivan. We will see you there. If not, we'll have it for you on the radio and on the video live stream. That's the Hall of Fame voice of the Golden Aces, Scott Allen. I'm the sidekick, Kyle Peach. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in Sullivan on Saturday.
See you later.